Good evening, and welcome to the Town of Rockland Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, September 19, 2023. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Person Childs, can you start us up?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded for playback by WRPS at youtube.com/WRPS Rockland. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. First on the agenda, community announcements, Recreation and Community Center Building Project. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. I'll be very quick because we have Jean Blaney, the Recreation Director, later on the agenda. She can talk more about it, but just while everyone's listening, tomorrow night, Wednesday, September 20th at 6:30 p.m. at the high school small lecture hall, we're having our second public outreach meeting on the proposed Recreation Community Center feasibility study to be located at Hartsuff Park. So we encourage everyone from the public to attend. They can hear a little bit of background from the rec director, get an overview from the architect on where things stand, and most importantly, give their input to help guide this. For announcements, I know we have others here up next.
Thank you, Doug. Next on the agenda, Holiday Stroll, Pam Murphy and Dan Biggins. Come on down, guys. One of the highlights of our year is not just the stroll, but hearing all the great things you guys have planned and the conversations you've had with the big guy to this point. So, without any further ado, I'll let you guys proceed. Go ahead.
Well, the big guy sends his regards.
Yeah.
He sends us here every year as his emissary to talk to you a little bit about our favorite little Rockland event, the Rockland Holiday Stroll. We get excited about starting this year when we come to see you, is getting our preparations together and planning for every year's stroll. And it's been around long enough now, I think, that we get comments quite a bit about family memories and traditions of sharing the stroll with people's children and grandchildren. It's really become sort of a wonderful community event, dare I say the quintessential Rockland event. We enjoyed it every year. It gets better and better. The lady sitting next to me, Pam Murphy, our town owes a lot to her. She is the one that started it, the one that makes it work. She's the brain and the muscle behind the operation. But we're looking forward to another great year.
28th year? What do you mean you don't know? You know. I think it actually might be the 29th at this point, which actually works out well because next year, being the 30th, would line up with Rockland's 150th birthday. So, go big.
It's just the perfect Christmas storm, Mr.
It
Chairman.
just lines up perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what do you guys have coming this year? Anything different or
We're always working on entertainment. And, we've already got a couple food trucks that really donated. And then, we're gonna get, we really haven't finalized where everything's going because stuff's not open. So we have to just kind of figure it out. But if anybody knows of any good entertainment, we're definitely interested. We'll be posting on Facebook and everything about needing crews to help with the different things.
I think all of your favorite traditions will be back. Right? The fire department's involvement with this is just such a special thing. With Santa Claus riding down, being led by all the elves and characters. Buddy the elf makes an appearance every year. The police department do an awesome job. They do a canine demonstration right in Union Square. All the businesses that come out and take part, all the smiling faces. It's just quintessential event. I think you'll see all the things that you remember seeing, and there may be a couple new surprises in store for I think it is our 29th year, Mike.
I think so.
We're hoping to have an awesome Christmas tree this year.
We'll see. We'll see what we can do. I think it's already on its way. Not quite as far as the North Pole, but southern Canada anyway. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Just to thank you. You worked so hard, and I'm definitely going to be putting my thinking cap on and some great resources. But at the same time, it's one of my first memories when I first moved here was that stroll, and it literally it instilled in us such a great feel that Rockland was just it was from the heart, and that's how it's been for everybody. So thank you. Looking forward to this year.
Your ideas.
Ideas and volunteers. We always love looking for volunteers, so if anybody is willing to help and take part, you can always find us on our Rockland Holiday Stroll Facebook page, and we're all ears to any ideas that our community has too.
And I believe this year's date's the 25th of Board of Seven.
All right, well, you guys do a great job every single year, and keep up the great work, and anything you guys need from us, as always, feel free to ask.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you guys,
Thanks
appreciate
very
it.
much, everybody. Thank you. Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Okay, next on the agenda, approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes for 9/5/2023.
Motion to approve minutes from 9/5/2023.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, it's a little bit early, so is Rob Rosa in the room? Rob Rosa, come on down. So I'm just gonna jump around for 2 seconds. We have a 7:15 public hearing, but I'll jump to Rob real quick. For, is this a shameless plug?
Yes.
All right.
Talk about what I'm here to talk about, give you just a preview of the flyer I'm putting out
Nice.
prior to
Thank you.
the actual planting.
I thought you were here to be appointed to Union Point Southfield Redevelopment
I got
Authority.
two on tonight,
Okay.
so we can get them
All
done
right.
quick. I can
All
get
right,
back to
jump
the
right
other
in.
meeting.
Okay, go right ahead.
First thing I'm here for is, as a member of the Fourth Floor Artists, we have a gallery space that we have monthly gallery shows. I have reserved the gallery for the entire month of October, and I'm putting on a gallery show. I'm titling it The Dark Side of Art. It gives basically all the Fourth Floor Artists members that their work does not fit in with the normal landscapes, the normal bowls of fruit. It gives it's centered around October. It's centered around Halloween, and I've got a big turnout for this when it comes to the Fourth Floor Artist. So we're going to tie it into basically the entire month, leading up to another food and art night that we've been doing, which is also going to be a masquerade ball. So here I am looking for a 1-day liquor license for that event.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 1-day liquor license for the Fourth Floor Artists.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? All right, that is unanimous.
Thank you, Select Board.
Okay, and back to your position with Union Point Southfield Redevelopment Authority, NAS Board of Appeals. Obviously, you currently serve as the chairman of our Board of Appeals here in town, and you've done, I think, an exceptional job in communicating with the Board of Selectmen, and communicating with all the departments, and communicating with residents.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to reappoint, or to appoint Rob to Union Point Southfield Redevelopment Authority, NAS Board of Appeals.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? That's unanimous.
Thank you, Select Board. I appreciate you for entertaining everything.
All right, hustle downstairs to your meeting.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, next on the agenda, we got announcement of new hires, Assistant Town Administrator and Town Planner. Doug.
Thanks, Mike. As the board is aware, because I sent you an email just as a heads up earlier, but to let the community know, I'm extremely pleased that after an exhaustive search, we filled 2 key positions in town. One is a new position, one is a vacancy. I'll start with the new position, the town planner. As the board knows, we've been working very hard for a long time to fill this position. And I'm extremely pleased to announce that we have hired Allison Quinn to fill that role. Allison has a ton of experience. She will hit the ground running. She was previously the Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development for the town of Milton. She's also worked for the Boston Redevelopment Authority and is currently working in another office for the city of Boston. So I'm extremely excited about having her on board. She's going to help create this department for the town, help build relationships with the zoning board, the planning board, the conservation commission, as well as all of our staff. And we have developers here in the room that are looking to do things in town, and having a land use planner, as they know, is critical to helping us work collaboratively with developers, as well as just average residents that might want to do a little addition on their property or, kind of understand the land use process in town. So that's a big hire. And then secondly, the assistant town administrator vacancy, when, as we know, Jen Constable recently left. And again, after a very thorough search, we had a lot of excellent applicants. We interviewed 6 people for the job, and frankly, any one of those 6 could have done the job well. We finalized it with 2 finalists, and ultimately we've selected Courtney Bjorgard, who is currently working for the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. She has outstanding experience. I think she's going to be a great fit. I just took a couple of notes. Her current work at the South Shore Chamber includes being the lead of their housing initiative, a senior project lead, and also the main staff contact for the South Shore Economic Development Corporation. And prior to that, she worked for the National Conference of State Legislatures. So she has a lot of excellent experience. I think she's going to be a great fit. They're both scheduled to start on October 10th. So it's pretty soon, so right after the Columbus Day holiday. Once they're here, we'll obviously bring them into a board meeting so they can introduce themselves, but I just wanted the community to know how excited I am to have both of these key positions filled with really excellent candidates. That's all I have on that.
I had a quick question about that. I've been approached by residents repeatedly about not understanding why an assistant town administrator is needed and what the benefits are. So I'm wondering if you could give a very brief summary of
Sure.
why.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So it's a big job managing a town. All right, we'll just start with that. And if you just look at best management practices, span of control, we probably have 25 departments, and in order to have effective management, you can really only have so many people reporting directly to you. Otherwise, things get diluted and things don't get done well or on time. In addition to that, there's a ton of special projects, and when I do have the assistant town administrator come in, we can go over the list of some of the things that she's going to be working on. But it's exhaustive and extensive, and it ranges from assistance with budget, town meeting, personnel management, labor management, but then all of the types of special projects that we do. And again, there's lots and lots of examples I can give of that. But it's, we run a $70 million operation, right? A big chunk of that is the schools, but still in an organization that big, you need a couple layers of management to effectively run it. Not to mention the fact it's a backup for me. If I'm unavailable, someone needs to be able to fulfill my role, and that's critically important.
Yep.
It's surprising that that's still actually a question with what we went through a few
Yeah.
years ago in this town,
Right.
and where we recognized the need, the increasing need for having somebody there to increase the stability within the office and really transform this
Yeah.
town to operating in the form of a business.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, grant writing and grant acquisition is
Sure,
a
yeah.
huge part that Jen played in the town,
Yeah.
and she brought in more money than her, yearly
Yeah,
salary
for sure.
was, for sure. So, they kind of balance each other out more than that, so.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions,
That's it.
comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none. We got just about another minute or two before the public hearing at 7:15, but we can jump ahead to the one-day liquor license request for Buzz Meadery. Currently looking for a one-day liquor license request for 9/30/23, which is the Fall Fest, from 1 to 5. Also, potentially for the rain date for Fall Festival on 10/1. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yep.
That's unanimous. Okay, so it's close enough to 7:15. So I'll entertain a motion to enter the public hearing.
Motion to enter into a public hearing.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Doug, 7:15 public hearing, National Grid pole location requests. Is there anybody here from National Grid? Come on, Doug. Just introduce yourself and tell us what you guys are looking to do.
Hi, I'm Aaron Bork from National Grid. National Grid is planning to install 2 new poles. One will be a midspan pole on Hynum Street, and another one will be a new pole 7 on Division Street. The purpose of the poles is to install a viper closure in both of the poles for line sensing, and in case there's any storm hardening issues, we can terminate the line at that point to make repairs.
I should add, Mike, I did check with the highway superintendent,
Yep.
and he supports this.
Okay. All right. Okay, anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments, concerns in regards to the National Grid poll requests? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, roll call vote. Selectperson Childs?
Yes.
Selectperson Elward?
Yes.
Vice Chair Needham?
Yes.
And myself. Okay, public hearing is now ended. I will entertain a motion to approve the poll requests.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, I'll let you guys get caught up for a second. I know I jumped around quite a bit there.
that's okay.
All right, next on the agenda, various license requests. 167 Union Street LLC, doing business as The Banner, looking for a common vic entertainment license, in-holder automatic amusement device. Mr. Barry and your attorney, come on down. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Good evening. Good to be back. I'm Gene Richard again from Hurwitz, Richard and Sensabaugh. We were here in July on the liquor license, and I can report that as of this morning, I have heard that it is with the commissioners, and that's usually one of the last steps, if not the last step. So hopefully that's coming soon. Sometimes they have questions, but that's where that stands. And we're here tonight for for 4 applications that don't involve liquor. It's the common victular, entertainment, in-holder, and automatic amusement device licenses. As I said previously, the overall intent is really to maintain the overall look and feel of the operations that have been there on those premises before. You probably have noticed there's new coat of paint and, certainly to spruce the place up. But these 4 licenses we're here for tonight are basically continuations. So the amusement device is the same one that was there. The entertainment is a pool. And dartboard, again, same as before. It's a new table, but same activity. In holder, I think there's the rooms number have changed, but it's basically upstairs and rooms for travelers, and that's continuing. And then common victular, the menu will probably be a little different. The plans are to have a front parlor for a coffee shop, pastries, that sort of thing. And the interior is being renovated, painted, new doors, lighting, that sort of thing. So those are all coming along, and hopefully with approval tonight, and hopefully approval soon for the liquor license things, you'll really see a big change and soon opening. So we would ask your approval pending, obviously, any questions.
Anybody have any questions, comments,
Yeah,
words?
I do. Well, the Banner has been a community hub in town for many, many years. So I'm glad to see you're keeping some things the same and some things have been upgraded. Have you guys fixed the air conditioning?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, that's good. So thank you for doing this, and I am behind you for having an incredibly successful venture.
Thank you very
So,
Anybody else? Okay. Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the common vic, the entertainment, the in-holder, and the automatic amusement device.
Motion to approve, and I wish you the best. It looks great so far.
I have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate your time.
how you doing?
Okay, next on the agenda, appointments. We already took care of Mr. Rosa for Union Point. We have Union Point Southfield Redevelopment Authority joint appointment, Monica Haran. Before that, we'll take Chairman Henderson of the SRA and Ms. McKinnon, Ron McKinnon. Welcome, guys.
Good evening. You're seeing a lot of the SRA and the Master Developer the last few
Every
meetings.
meeting now.
And
You
Yeah,
guys are
yeah.
here more than Allison. Oh, there's Allison.
Yeah.
There you go.
we'll be
Guess not.
continuing, I think,
Yeah.
the next few months.
Yeah.
Great.
I just, on the agenda tonight is the appointment for the joint appointee for the SRA. So the Homeowners Association will put forward a name, and it's a joint appointment between the City of Weymouth and the Town of Rockland. The City of Weymouth has chose Monica Haran, which Monica is here tonight and has been serving on the board for the last 2 years with us, weathering the storm that we've been dealing with over the last several years. Monica's a great asset to the board and been great to work with as we work in this transitional time with the master developer. So I hope that you consider Monica, and if you have any questions for Monica or us, we'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Monica?
Well, I mean, thank you for moving the ball forward. I've been to several meetings, and just thank you
It's
for
an
doing
exciting
that.
time.
So, yeah, for your commitment to this.
So, Monica, you're currently a resident of Weymouth, and obviously, you know, the majority of the parcel is Weymouth. You're here tonight to be a joint appointment with the town of Rockland. Where do you see yourself? I guess loyalty would be the wrong word, but do you find yourself able to be objective when it comes to things as far as making sure that you're fighting for the rights of both communities equally, as opposed to specifically maybe one, if that was brought up?
Yes, I have been a resident and property owner in Union Point for almost 7 years, very vested in the community. I'm not originally from Massachusetts, so I don't have any, particular loyalty to a town that I grew up in. I think that helps give me a certain perspective maybe that some
Exactly.
residents don't have, and I think would also help with my objectivity.
Okay, that's a great answer, perfect. Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, and Tom, your board approves, obviously. So without any further ado, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Unanimous, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, just
By all
a few
means.
quick things
Yep.
on the coming up. Next Tuesday, September 26th, is the joint public hearing between the Planning Board and the Southfield Redevelopment Authority. That's at the auditorium. We'll be going through the zoning bylaws. It's coming up on the special town meeting on November 7th. It's very detailed and goes in very in depth as far as what the zoning changes mean and what they are. So hopefully people can attend and get the questions asked and answered prior to town meeting. We are also working on a community meeting for October 17th. I'll get an email to Doug and the board. It will be in Rockland. We're just nailing down the location, and hopefully we'll have that taken care of within the next few days. But that will be in the evening, 7 p.m. Again, just to go over what we've seen a few times on the presentation, but we want to make sure we get the message out. So that's all I have, and thank you so much, Kelly.
Everything Tom said, I guess, and then, the biggest thing is we really encourage people to get out and get educated on what's really going on and all the work that we've done. That's really gonna benefit all three towns, and it's really important, so instead of apathy, make sure that everyone comes out so that they know what's going on.
So that's a great point, what you just said, to make sure that they
Mhm.
really know what's going on,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of rumors and conjecture that's out there
That's right.
that's very misrepresentative of the work that's being done by yourselves, your board, and as well as the developers. So this is a great opportunity for transparency for the residents to know exactly what the plan is for this project that we've been waiting to develop for the last 30 years in this town. That's been held up many times by other people's interests that aren't necessarily the best interests of the town. So this is an opportunity for everybody to get out and really hear the truth. So appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Thank you, the board. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. Thank you, Town Administrator.
Okay, next on the agenda, Historical Commission, Nancy Davis. Is Nancy here?
Hello.
Nancy, welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry, Nancy, I'm just moving back to,
What letter is it under?
so it's right after the, right after Monica's application in our packets.
All right.
So Nancy, you're currently a member of the Cultural Council. What sparked your interest in joining the Historical Commission?
He who doesn't know his history is doomed to repeat it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I've seen a letter in here from Jim Paul from the Historical Commission saying that they unanimously recommend you. Anybody have any questions or comments for Nancy?
No, you've been a resident in Rockland for how long, Nancy?
Longer than we've been anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while, so.
Time to learn about the town.
Yeah. Yep. So, what's your interest in joining the,
Learning more.
okay.
There's a lot going on here.
There is. So, so you like oh,
I'm
bless
sorry.
you. You like history and research
I
and
do.
all that stuff, yeah.
I'm in the right group for that.
Yep. Okay, that's it.
Thank you for your commitment to the town, absolutely.
Anybody have any further comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, Deborah Joyce, Rent Control Board. Is Deborah here? Deborah Joyce? Nobody? All right, Doug, that's, I don't wanna just arbitrarily appoint somebody to that board, so
Mm-hmm.
give them a second.
Mike, why don't we just pass over it for
Yeah,
now,
we'll
and if she
pass it
shows
over.
up a little bit later,
Yep.
we can hit it.
Yeah, I just figured I'd give her a second, somebody was checking out front for her, so. Okay, next on the agenda, what of map revision, request for FEMA floodplain maps, A.W. Perry.
And if I can just maybe give an
Yeah,
intro
yeah.
while these guys are coming up. We've been working very closely with A.W. Perry on a variety of things since I've been here, and I know the town's been engaged with them in the past as well. We've gone through this particular process for a map revision before. Another business in roughly the same part of town off of Weymouth Street had asked about a similar endorsement in the past. So again, you know, FEMA comes out with flood maps, which are important for the community to adopt so we can participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. Depending on where someone's property might lie in a zone determined by FEMA, that can affect what they may or may not be able to do with the property, if they can develop it or not. So it's not uncommon for either residents or businesses to question some of the maps, because again, these maps literally cover or look at the entire country. So, you know, that's a lot for FEMA to be able to do. So occasionally there are times like this where there are landowners that question the validity of a map and whether it really should be drawn the way it is. And so the owners of this parcel, A.W. Perry, engaged a very reputable engineering firm. I sent you all an email link to 500 pages of technical
Sorry.
documentation,
No,
which
thanks,
I
sir.
Thanks a
wasn't,
lot.
wasn't going to kill the trees, and I wasn't going to pretend that I could understand all the graphs and charts, but basically, explaining why it's appropriate. I'll let them speak to that, but just procedurally, I did check with every department I could think of that might have a perspective on this, starting with the building inspector. He's sort of the floodplain administrator, but I checked with, police, fire, highway, conservation, everybody, looked through the material. Everybody's comfortable with what they're proposing. I support them as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Gabe Crocker, and he can talk about some of the technical aspects of it.
Thanks, Doug. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your time. My name is Gabe Crocker. I'm the owner of Crocker Design Group, a local engineering firm, a civil and survey firm. With me is Josh Green. Also with me is Mark Flaherty of A.W. Perry and his team as well. So Doug summarized it pretty well. We're here seeking the board's support for a letter of map revision request to FEMA. Specifically, the parcels, A.W. Perry owns several parcels on Commerce Road off of Hingham Street. And if you're driving by there today, there's currently two basins, detention basins, one on either side of the application, or of the roadway coming in. This application is specific to asking FEMA to remove their floodplain designation that they have identified over those basins. And primarily, it's not customary or common that FEMA would regulate stormwater basins. We design and construct stormwater basins all the time, and FEMA doesn't then come in and regulate them. But things happen with maps over time. These became floodplain in the 2008 revision. So as we've been looking at the property, and A.W. Perry, was starting their planning for the land, this was a logical first step. Your support doesn't mean, that it's automatically approved by FEMA. We have to go through a rigorous process with FEMA for their review. And it also doesn't mean that the basins go away tomorrow. They're performing an important stormwater function. At the confluence of Commerce Road and the subdivision road, takes the stormwater drainage from that subdivision. But it will offer flexibility as we start to look at design concepts on the property or future redevelopment of it. It does provide flexibility on how that stormwater can be designed and managed. So I wanted to make that clear. So we're here seeking your support for the application. We did a thorough review of it. Both from the big picture, common sense, it's typical that they're not regulated at the FEMA level, but also we did do the thorough 600-page technical analysis to determine that they weren't providing flood control as FEMA looks at it today. So that's the basis for the request, and we ask for your support. The way the support works is FEMA, for any of these letter of map revisions, requires that the town sign the application as the community. Obviously, A.W. Perry and their team are paying all of the costs associated with it, the applications, the engineering, all of the responses, everything that goes along with that. But obviously, the number one thing is we need your support with that application for it to move forward. We then go to the building inspector. The building inspector then has his chance to review and sign the form as well. I sign the form as the engineer of record, and then it'll formally go into FEMA to start their review process, which can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yep.
I do. So I read the Cliff's Notes version of the 600-page book. And I read that you would plan to change the basins. You're applying to take them off the map, but are you going to redirect water anywhere? Or
So
maybe I read it
this
wrong?
application of FEMA doesn't include any changes or any physical changes.
Okay.
So that this specific request is simply to take them out of floodplain designation.
Okay.
But from a future design perspective,
Right,
it
yeah.
offers flexibility to the property owner.
Yep.
On how or where those basins could be placed,
Okay.
potentially could be under parking lots, things of that nature in the future. But that analysis,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't negate that future detailed analysis that would have to be done, designed, and submitted to
Right.
the town boards for review.
Right. So the basins are how old?
They were installed in right around 1980 when Commerce Road subdivision was constructed.
All right. So I would imagine there's better technology that more effectively contains stormwater.
There is,
Yeah.
yes, yep.
So potentially.
With more detailed controls and.
Right,
and-
right. So,
yeah.
okay. So this could be like a setup to change, well, okay. I
Correct.
understand what you
Yep.
want. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So there are benefits to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
just a brief question, what would be the FEMA protocol in terms of follow-up?
So the FEMA protocol, so it starts with the formal filing of this letter of map revision with all of the supporting documentation. FEMA is then going to assign a FEMA analyst to the case, who will then start their formal review. A lot of times there'll be a meeting to go through it. Not often. Sometimes during COVID they haven't had those meetings, but sometimes by Zoom they do. And then it's typically followed up by formal written review comments back from FEMA on the application, and those would go to the town and A.W. Perry. And then we have to review them, address them, and then typically a resubmittal happens, and then a re-review happens. And then the process typically wraps up after the second review if everything was addressed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? You good? Okay. Okay. So no other questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve removal from the floodplain map.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Mike, can I also ask
Doug?
if you can vote to authorize me to sign on the board's
I was
behalf?
just thinking that.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
case they
I
need
will
a signature
entertain
before
a
a meeting.
motion to authorize Doug to sign on the board's behalf in
Thanks,
case they
Doug.
need a signature going forward.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thanks, everybody.
That's unanimous.
All right,
Thank you,
thank
gentlemen. Okay, next on the agenda, Historical Commission update. Jim Paul. Thank you, guys.
Good evening.
Hi, Jim.
I just wanted to come tonight to welcome our newest member, Nancy Davis. Glad she showed up. And we've got the rest of our commission here, Peter Dow, Pam Ryan, and Doug Becker. Tom Regan is in Vermont, couldn't make it. But this is the most members we've had since I've been involved, about 20 years. The town charter does allow us to have 7 members, so we have an opening, if anybody is interested. As you guys know, Rockland's 150 is coming up next year, so there's gonna be a lot of meetings, a lot of brainstorming to get some things off the ground. The commission has a few ideas, along with a few other folks. We've been talking with the folks at the GAR Hall, so they'd love to have a ball at the hall, either a formal or a masquerade or a period type of ball. They are also interested in doing a Civil War encampment at Hot Stuff Park, because it is General George Hartsuff, who's the name of the GAR Hall. He was the commander general in Civil War. That's what Hartsuff is named for. So there would be a weekend encampment, overnight, that type of thing. Kind of the same thing that they have at Island Grove in Abington. We'll try to get some historical programs together at the GAR Hall, lecture series, that kind of thing. So, so that they'll be working on that.
I think they're excited.
Yeah.
They're excited to hear that.
Yeah.
About the ball in the hall.
Yeah, the ball at the hall is gonna
I know.
be a good thing.
I think the stroll is the biggest event.
Well, it'll be open for the stroll again, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be kind of a prelude to it, so. We have been working on a website, Doug Becker is gonna have that up and running shortly, it's almost there now, but we're gonna wait to launch it when it's complete. A couple of ideas, a few more ideas coming up for the 150th, possibly a picnic up at the Tramp House. I was talking with Gene Blaney today, and we're gonna kind of coordinate with the Recreation Commission and Historical Commission and all the other town boards. But possibly a picnic up at the Tramp House with food trucks, maybe a baseball game, cornhole tournament, just something they had back in the 70s, and we've got photos of. There was a picnic at the Alms House, and the band played actually on the porch of what's now the offices up there, and it was a pretty good time, according to the pictures. So the Tramp House is almost done. We're gonna try to get a porch built on it and finish up the inside, get a floor inside. So that'll be the projects for this coming spring. One of the other ideas that we have is to have an old-fashioned 1800s baseball game at the stadium. So that would be a pretty good event as well. And talking again with Gene Blaney, we're gonna try to put together a possible historical house tour. So if anyone is in a historically significant home or architecturally significant or someone famous or infamous in the house, they can reach out to myself or Gene and start getting that ball rolling too. So another couple of things we've got going, and fortunately we do have CPA funds these days, so we're able to keep our buildings in good shape. The GAR, the second floor came out fantastic. They'll be looking for first floor renovations for the next round of funding. Same thing with the Tramp House. We want to do a porch. We want to finish up the interior, get a floor inside. And Pam is working on what's called the sketchbook for the Civil War soldiers. So it was a book like a diary that all the vets actually signed and wrote in themselves, the ones that returned. And that was discovered at the hall. It was missing for years. Pam found it. We're going to get that archivally restored, and we're going to have that available for display at the library under a case, but we may have it out at the stroll, again, under a case, so people can get a look at it. But it's the soldiers' own personal stories that they've written down, and it's pretty in conjunction with that, Pam's got a program going into the rotunda of the library in November, and that is called Our Unreturned. So there's 25 soldiers that didn't come back from the Civil War this era. Pam has photos of 15 of them that are going to be displayed up there, and that'll be going in pretty much the month of November. It'll be available, for viewing. There'll be an open house. It'll be open for possible parade, that sort of thing. So Pam's been working on that. Other than that, well, we've been busy. So.
Any other questions, comments?
What you're doing is wicked cool. It's really preserving a lot of
It's
history.
good to have the 150th come up.
Yeah.
That kind of gives us that extra little bounce.
Right, yeah.
Rockland Day has been great. We're going to kind of follow their lead and be involved with that committee as well.
Oh, great, yeah.
And there'll be, for breakout committees for things. We'll be involved, for sure.
Yeah, it's always fascinating what you guys do, particularly finding an artifact like the book itself and being able to preserve it, that part of history. I always find it fascinating looking back and hearing how people talk about Rockland today and saying, well, we don't want to turn it into a city. but at the turn, essentially, we were a city. And if you look at some of these cities, these nice quintessential towns in the Midwest with, 3 or 4 story buildings, that's what Rockland was. I don't know what it was that caused all the fires on Union Street in the early 1900s, but most of the beautiful buildings on Union Street were destroyed by fire in, around the turn of the century.
Mostly gas.
Yeah.
And it was lit
Yeah.
and heated by
The gas plants and stuff like that, yeah. So, but it's funny because you see in other towns where that didn't happen, where some of those other towns are still, very preserved.
We have so many shops up and down the street.
Yeah.
Blow up into
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see it because I think people don't realize that that's what Rockland was. Rockland was a bustling town, and it was very, very industrial. And I think people look at the 2 shoe factories and think that that's all it was, but the entire street was lined with 3 or 4 story buildings, and automobiles, almost everywhere when they first came out and stuff like that. And it was
We had trolley cars.
yeah, everything. It was really fascinating. Really fascinating to see some of these pictures. So
Rockland was the second largest shoe manufacturer next to Brockton,
Mhm.
and they went back and forth for a couple of years. But Rockland was a very big shoe manufacturing city, and that just kind of led to other things. The railroad going through, the old colony spur going through, helped out a lot. So yeah, it is great to go through our photos, and Pam's digitizing a lot of them, and we'll get a lot of them on the website as well. So
yeah, one of the things that we've been talking about is things that we can help in fundraising for the 150th, because we're looking to do obviously events throughout the entire course of the year. If you guys are able to do something with digitizing the photos and putting together some kind of a book, maybe that's something that we can sell as a fundraiser as well.
We have hundreds of pictures.
Yeah,
They're all already done.
Love to see them. Love to see them all.
And people just email me them.
And I think
Wind up.
for the 150th, it'd be something that people might gravitate to. It might be a great fundraising opportunity for you guys to help you guys running the events that you guys have going forward. So, okay, guys, appreciate all your hard work. Keep it up. Thank you.
Mike, while Jim and Pamela are leaving, feel free to keep going, but just one idea for a fundraiser other towns have done is a historic map, like a limited series reproduction of the historic map. In other towns, those historical commissions have raised some good money with that, so that might be something to think about if you have one.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda, Recreation Department update. Jean Blaney.
There's a lot of them, I'll be there in a minute.
You got the whole team.
I just have some things for you.
Allison, I apologize. We already passed the one-day liquor license.
Forgot about me now.
She just wants to sit up there.
Well,
so
we
I
had
said, you might as well come up.
we had a 7:15 public hearing, and we had about a minute and a half left. I said, let's just get it done. So
I'm not offended.
I didn't think you would be. Ladies,
So-
welcome. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. So I'm here to update you a little bit about what's gone on the past couple of months. We've had summer. I first want to say thank you to Joe Ambrose. He answered the call of requesting funding for some folks that couldn't afford our summer program. So I really, really appreciate that. So Acme Weatherproofing, thank you. He was able to help, I think it was 10 families, and out of those 10 families, we had one that was a homeless family. So that was, before I start to cry, that was near and dear to my heart. I really appreciate that. So we had a great summer on average. We had about 200 kids per week. We serviced, we had 8 weeks of our summer program up at Hartsoft Park. We had flag football. That was well attended. And then we had a few STEAM and art programs. I'm sorry to say that a lot of our half-day programs just didn't quite run. I'm going to guess that's because parents are working. But in the past, we've had some of those actually run. So not as many as we had hoped for this year. In addition to that, in your little packet of information, we have numerous fall events and programs. So you guys can take a look at that at your leisure. Two of our really big programs that are running right now, we have, our 4 pickleball programs are running. and then soon to come up is our adult body blast. So those are right now our biggest programs as well as our top programs. So so it's kind of fun. And then let's see, I went way ahead of my notes. We had a successful market, so I was going to just kind of turn that over to Allison. This is her world.
So yeah, we had 8 markets down in Hartsville this season. We had 272 vendor spots with me that kind of that equates to 272 opportunities for the community to come out and either connect with the community or make profit. We had 17 young entrepreneurs, which is a program that we do, that we give a table and a space to a young entrepreneur and kind of guide them along and let them sell amongst the other vendors. It could be something like drawings or crocheting, but they kind of just get the feel of how to become a young entrepreneur. And then overall, I think at least minimally about 8,000 people throughout the 8 dates had came to Hartsville to join. That's not obviously including the vendors. For stats, I think that's pretty much it. We had a fun little additive that the Culture Council granted us, a trike called Funk, which was really like an interactive movement group. You were there, Tiffany. It was quite fun. They're going to be here for Fall Fest. And I've spoke to them about the growing population of the Brazilian Latin community in Rockland, and they're bringing 4 artists that are teaching and performing artists that'll specialize in Brazilian and Latin dance and music. So there'll be live art at Fall Fest. So yeah, it's just kind of moving along and snowballing. So I think it was a great season.
Yeah, so overall and we just wrapped that one up. So
Yeah.
we still have Fall Fest to get through. And then beyond that, I gave you an event schedule. We won't go over all of them. We do have this new one that we're running up at Hartsville Park. We do this with kids, but we want to do this with kids, children, and adults. And it's called the Warrior Run. It's an obstacle course through the entire park. I think it's about 2.5 miles. Mark Ewell put it together for me, and we ran a program with some kids. It was outstanding. They were in the mud, they were in the pond, they were in the sand.
Is that the one you were joining?
Yes.
You go first.
But anyways, they had a blast, and some of the parents actually asked us if we could run that for adults. It's nowhere going to be on the level or the scale that you see some of the other Warrior runs, but it's going to be our own at the park. But beyond that, you can read beyond that. We have the candy cane hunt, and we'll talk about the spring when we get there. So last year overall, I just wanted to give you some stats. So the years 2021 to 2022, we had about 4,351 registrations. I truly thought that was all we were going to have. But last year, at the close of June 30th, this past fiscal year, we did 5,388. And my staff swears they're going to have more registrations this year. So we'll see if we can't beat those stats. Beyond that, I'm going to Advocacy Day for Recreation Directors at the State House. It's Thursday, the 28th. I believe the 28th is Thursday. It's kind of an all-day event. We get to meet with our representatives. We get to talk about the issues with recreation, and actually a lot of the bills that we're going to discuss don't just touch my department. They touch fire, they touch police, just about every town department you can think of. So I'm very excited. It's our first Advocacy Day, and I'm very excited to go to that. Beyond that, tomorrow night I will hopefully see some of you at our meeting over at the high school to talk about the positioning of the recreation building that we've been doing a feasibility study on. So hopefully you guys will be there, and we can have a nice little quick presentation on that too. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Jean. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anybody?
I think I'm good.
I would just like to say thank you. To see your department continue to evolve, to meet the needs, and to even show us how spectacular some things can be. You know, you're creating so many wonderful opportunities to engage the town, and in all ages, and to celebrate the town. And there's so much heart that you're your team brings to all that you do. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
And you guys keep kids out of trouble, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we tried.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 45 show up at the teen center this past Friday night, and that's with, I think the football game went, right? So that's with the football game.
Wow,
So
yeah.
we've actually hired a couple of staff members to be there this Friday night because I believe that there's no football game. So we'll see what kind of numbers we bring in on Friday night.
Yeah. So are you outgrowing your space?
Maybe a little.
Okay.
I think the teen center still has space to grow, but where we're involved with Girl Scouts and we have to put their programming and kind of push ours aside so that they can have their meetings. And then it's pieces to the puzzle. So we're putting it all together.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Will that meeting tomorrow be televised? Because
It will be.
All right, excellent. Because
Well, it'll be recorded, not televised.
Well,
Am I correct on
right,
that?
It'll be
Recorded,
recorded
right,
and up on
okay.
YouTube
Yeah.
for replay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. All right.
Probably the
Thank
next
you.
day.
Perfect.
Well, I think the best part of what you said there was the amount of registrations and the fact that your team is committing to beating that mark. I mean, you guys have come a long way since some of our phone calls during COVID, and what you've turned the department into is nothing short of amazing. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right, beat today. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, school department request for additional sped funding at the 11/7/23 special town meeting. Dr. Alan Cron, school superintendent, and Jane Hackett.
Well,
Welcome.
evening.
Thanks for coming up, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. First, like to say thank you for inviting us, and we're off to a great start this school year. It's a very exciting time in Rockland. We just opened the Phelps Elementary School, and that involved a restructuring of all of our elementary schools. So as everyone remembers, we used to have the Memorial Park, the Jefferson, and the Eston. And now we just have Phelps, and the Eston has become an early childhood center. So we have preschool and kindergarten there. So this fall has been this is day 13, I believe, 13th day of having all of our students in the Phelps School, which has been an adventure, but also very, very exciting. The attitude, the attitude of the staff, the attitude of the kids has been just, there's a buzz. And for anyone in town who hasn't seen the Phelps, I invite you to come down, email me, and I'll set up a time to meet you and show you. We're so proud of it, and we hope that anyone who gets to see it is proud of it as well. It's just extraordinary. We're finishing up the turf part of the project. We're very excited about that, and the revitalization of downtown, and how hopeful we are that the turf field project will be a part of that revitalization. And we know there's some work going on with Southfield, and so it's just a very, very exciting time. Which brings us to tonight. And this is a little less exciting because we're asking for money. But a little background.
thank you.
We have a number of students who are part of the Rockland Public Schools who don't attend our buildings here, and we call them out-of-district placements, and we pay for them to attend schools out of district. So our OOD stands for out of district. And if you follow in 21, we had about 3.1 million in out-of-district costs. That went down to 2.8 in FY22, and then down to 2.6 in FY23. Last year, the state announced a unilateral 20% rate increase, that they would allow any out-of-district to raise their rates as much as 20%. So they all immediately, of course, raised their rates by 20%.
What kind of heads up did they give you?
They gave us a letter.
They gave us a letter.
They gave us a letter.
So
It's
typical.
a very
yeah.
well-written letter.
Yep.
Yep.
That's good.
And the superintendents got together, and we all were very upset and wrote a very thorough letter. And Tom Scott, the head of the Superintendent's Association, was very active, and let them know what they were doing to our budgets, and we immediately did the math, and to us, it was 300,000 right out of the gate. Some other communities in the area were as high as 500,000-600,000 just by that 20% announcement. So, pretty good sized budget hit. So we budgeted, and the town approved, as part of our budget, our out-of-district costs at $3.6 million for this year, which was a 36% increase when we had been on a downward trend. We are projecting currently a $3.8 million out-of-district cost for this year alone. So we had 7 students who were in district go out at a total cost of $803,000 plus, and we brought 3 students back with a new program that we just started at the high school. So 3 students came back at a gain of 102.8. And so the net increase to us for out-of-district costs is almost 701,000. So we're coming to you to ask for some help making things work this year in special education, particularly with the unanticipated out-of-district costs. And it is important, I think, to know that we get ready for October 1, which is when we report our big number, all of our students. That number is important, but how those students are classified is also very important. So over the last 3 years or so, Jane Hackett and her team have been diligently working to make sure that we're extremely accurate with our reporting so that we capture all possible funding through Chapter 70 and every other means, grants, everything. So we are looking at, we're facing this particular increase in out-of-district, but we're also anticipating possibly more out-of-district costs in the future. We did receive 10 new students in the last week alone at the Phelps School, and 3 of those 10 students are being evaluated as possible students who may need to be out-of-district. When I say need to be out-of-district, these are students who are requiring 2 or 3 staff members to be with them almost throughout the day. It may be physical, it may be emotional, it could be a whole range of things, but safety is generally a very big issue when we look at out-of-district. One question that someone in the audience may ask is, well, what are you doing in district to keep kids in rather than sending them out? And I know it was raised by Senator Keenan at his last visit that some districts have developed programs. Rockland I am extremely proud of what we do in district to keep students in district. We have our own self-contained programs at all levels. In kindergarten, we have 3 at Phelps, we have some at the middle school, and at the high school, we have 2 programs that I consider sort of safety nets. One is a program that serves about 45 students, about a dozen or so in each grade level, and it's a support class. They may have an IEP, they may not, but it's dropout prevention. We started a new program this year for students who had been absent as many as 60 to 80 days per year. So these students were really on their way to dropping out. So we've developed a program to try to keep them in. It begins at 7th grade, which is quite aggressive, but if you talk to anyone who's been in education for any amount of time, if you start after 7th grade, it's almost too late. So we work with the families. It's an in-house therapeutic school within the school. So when people ask what are we doing to keep kids in district, I can tell you that we are doing everything and then some. And if anyone ever has a suggestion, we're all ears, but we're pretty in tune with what schools are doing and able to do. And I feel that Rockland should be very proud of what we're doing to keep kids in district, and I think we're doing a good job with that. So I think that's about it, unless you have anything to add, Jane. Any questions?
Yes.
Lori, go ahead.
Yeah, are you asking us to approve 700,000? 300, oh, okay. Okay, and I know you both are brilliant at giving your budgets haircuts. Have you looked at every which way to
Yeah,
do that with kids?
We've been cutting hair pretty much daily for years now. But
right.
Another thing that I'm very, very proud of with the department, with the school department, is what we've done financially over the years, whether it be furloughing staff during COVID, we saved $1.3 million, whether it be our handling of the ESSER,
Yeah.
whether it be our making sure that our data is accurate so that we're capturing, whether it be our reimbursement through Medicare, Medicaid. And our special education budget, interestingly, has actually been going down over the last 3 years as needs have increased.
Yeah.
So what that means is that we're doing more with less, and we're pushing people to do more with less. So in very long
Yeah.
answer to your question, yes, we are. But
Yep.
that doesn't mean we can't do better and that we won't try to do better.
Yeah,
So,
well, I
yeah.
know you guys are constantly on top of stuff like that.
We feel
so-
very responsible
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the taxpayers, and
Yep.
and it's, you know, I'll be sitting with a special education family around the table, and we're talking about services, and when someone wants something that we can't afford to do. You know, the law says you get a car; it doesn't say you get a Cadillac.
Right.
And that's an important distinction, and it's Rockland taxpayer money that we're spending, and we take that very seriously.
Yep, yep. So Doug, if we approved it, where would the money come from in our budget?
Yes, so this would have to be done at the special town meeting on
Okay.
November 7th, and the only source of funding that I think is reasonable would be free cash.
Okay.
And it generally, right, free cash is, you know, should not be used for operating expenses. This
yeah.
is an operating expense, but as Dr. Cron explained, it's not like a normal operating expense.
it was
So there's
unexpected.
unanticipated
Yeah.
things outside their control.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's not a recurring annual thing, because then if it is, we should build it into their budget, but it seems to be more volatile than that. So it would have to be free cash.
I will say historically, this is my 12th year, historically Rockland, the school department has come to the town for unanticipated special education costs. For those of you who have been around a long time, it was something I think people were used to hearing, that you can't tell when someone's gonna move in. So I think what another option is, some towns have gone to creating a fund on the town side, where the town sets aside some money, the school department sets aside some money, but if that requires an act of the legislature, I don't see the pros to that. I don't see the upside to doing that, other than there's money sitting in a fund that we're not necessarily using. So,
So what's the solution, right? I mean, we talk about, you and I had a good conversation last week, and we talked about what the problems are, and the problems seem to be with the way the legislature, you know, creates the laws, and then, you know, kind of pulls a bait and switch, kind of the similar way that they're doing with the Cannabis Control Commission, where they're offering us one thing and then they're changing the rules midstream, and it's causing you guys heartache as far as, you know, special education funding. All of the rules that go into special education are designed by DESE and by the state,
Yeah.
right? So they dictate the amount of money that you guys have to spend per student, as far as the proper amount of staffing per student that needs to be had. Why is it that they try to guess on their end where the money is going to be spent, as opposed to having, you know, receipts turned in at the end for reimbursement?
well, I have two answers. I have a very strong opinion on that, but first of all, if you talk to anyone who's been doing this for a long time, this has been an ongoing problem. To me, it's an equity issue. Towns that are more economically challenged tend to get hit with these costs more, and then the state will say, well, we have circuit breaker. And circuit breaker helps you for anything that's over $50,000 per student, but you don't get it in that year, you get it the following year,
Yeah.
so it doesn't help a lot. But the state will say we have circuit breaker. What really should happen is the state should be taking over out-of-district placements for every district. That's how it should work. And if you talk to anyone who's been doing this a long time, they'll say the same thing.
So how do we do it?
They just throw it to the towns and they say deal with it.
So how do we do it? How do we fix it?
There's no fixing.
There's no
because-
fixing.
No, there's no
Okay.
fixing. There's no fixing this.
Yeah.
There really
It's
isn't.
the state,
As long
yeah.
as, there's no fixing.
Yeah.
If someone moves in, you get a bill. The bill used to go to another town, now it comes to us. It used to go to Boston, now
Yeah.
it comes to us. It's just hot potato. And there are kids, and you know, they're Rockland kids, and we do bring some back. Some are medical and they won't come back. But it is a system that does not work. extremely well, and I think it's an equity issue, which is what bothers me. So.
And the one thing I would add, just before the night ends, is that the transportation component is also extremely expensive,
Very,
a big
yeah.
part, you know, of this $3.8 million. About 600,000 of that is out of district transportation costs. And, you know, we do an outstanding job as a district with our own van drivers and our own leases, and every year the town meeting has funded our lease agreements. Now we're having a difficult time because of supply and demand, supply chain issues. We're having a very difficult time in negotiations to extend our leases. They don't want to extend our van leases, they want to repossess them so they can sell them for more money.
Yep.
So we have this circle that we're in right now, in a spiral, and we're in negotiations right now with 2 vans that leases are expiring during this calendar year. One I've already renewed twice, trying to renew it a 3rd time, and we're in discussions with a couple of other towns, trying to get vans that they have that they aren't using. So, but that's an incredible expense as well. It's $515,000 last year, in out-of-district transportation costs, in addition to $208,000 in our own van drivers.
You know, I think if we all did business the way the state does business, we'd all be out of business, so. Okay, so more to come. Anybody, I'll entertain a motion to approve, putting the request on the special town meeting warrant.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you guys,
Thank you
appreciate
guys
it.
for your support.
Let us know whatever you need.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Congratulations on starting this school
Thank you.
year.
Thank you. If you haven't seen the school, please.
All right, next on the agenda, sewer department update. Chairman Hessian. Chuck, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, excuse me. Okay, Mr. Ross? Ms. Valley? Yes. Mr. Ashley, yes. Okay. First of all, before I begin, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen and Doug for your help with the opera funds. That was the kickstart to a lot of this. And we've come a long way. I sent you out a package of information, and I don't want to bore you going through every slide. So what I will do is, I will go through the items of presentation, and if you want me to stop on something later on, I'll come back and go for it. All right, current flow and capacity, we're making progress in the flow reduction. I want you to, number 2 there is pretty important. As of the first of the month, a 12-month rolling discharge average is still 2.7. We've had an extremely wet summer. But the positive on that is the 5-month rolling average, when they changed our permit, they still look at 12 months, but for the 5 months data we have, we're at 2.3. These last 2 weeks are gonna kill us, but that's where we are. Now, we have not been below that rolling average in 52 months. So we are making headway. I just want to caution that the wet months are coming up on us, and that always burns us. Aggressive I&I is not going to prevent this. That's just the natural flow of events, how things go. The only way to really control the flow is going to be with the adherence to the moratorium and the I&I control plan that we have. And I'll be going into that a little more in depth.
Pardon me, sorry.
No, that's okay, there's no money in it, so you can take it. The EPA mentioned that they'll be watching Rockland for compliance to the moratorium, so, I mean, we're in very good shape with them right now. They seem to be very pleased with us. They want to be notified to any changes in the document, which is part of our administrative order. The I&I remediation work, I want to remind you, that's gonna fluctuate seasonally. There's just no way to avoid that. Now, in 2021, the ACOM study indicated there was 220,000 gallons of I&I that could be removed. We went in through Weston Sampson this summer, and we were able to remove 113,800 gallons, which is 52% of the original estimate. That 52% or 50% removal is usually what you can expect from after an SSES study. Now, Weston Sampson will be going back in the spring of next year, and what they'll do is they're going to verify the repairs to make sure they're sound, and they're going to make sure of the actual amounts of removal, because we have to now
we can't report, say, oh, we took out, we have to submit reports saying, here's what we planned and here's the verification. Now, based on what we took out, we still owe about 42,000 gallons of, to comply with our current order. That 42,000 gallons is for sewer connections we previously had approved. Well, another initiative we took on was we did some metering, and it's going to be the bulk of our future work. That metering program, we put 15 flow meters throughout the town and collected data for 12 weeks. Rain gauges were installed, groundwater depth analysis was recorded, and we tried to key on areas that we knew historically were susceptible to groundwater conditions for rain, snow, and the snow melt. Now, what they found was they are estimating between 1.76 and 1.52 million gallons of I&I. Now, not all of that is cost cost efficient to get removed, but we're gonna find out. 7 of the areas that of those 15 meters, took up 80% of their total I&I. Those are the areas, and I'm sorry, I should have included the map in that, but I got really caught up on it. Those 7 areas alone, 3 to 12, that I put up there, close to 1.2 million of I&I that we think. So a very realistic estimate, they feel, is we could regroup probably 800 to 650,000 gallons of that. Now, again, I put that in bold to tell you, if you all remember back, June was extremely rainy. And what really was an eye-opener was the amount of sump pumps that are in Rockland. I knew people had them until I really saw the numbers of flows. It never really grabbed me that much. But it just pointed out, and I'll get that a little further in the CWMP, that we've really got to come up with an effective sump pump program. We can't eliminate sump pumps, but make sure that people are plumbing them correctly. Further investigation on that, because the metering program just gave us general areas. So what we have to do now is go in and focus on those generals and identify the specific sources of I&I. We're going to focus on areas 6 and 11 right now. 6 is from Hingham South, which is the pump station in Hingham South, to Webster Street, the length of Webster, and partially up West Water. Is that East Water or West Water?
West is that way. East
So
is that
East
way.
Water, okay, East Water. Those 2 areas alone, and area 11 is from Reed's Pond down John Dunn Drive and part of Concord Street. Those areas alone, they figure is between 250 and 300,000. We're hoping to capture about 125 to 170,000 gallons of I&I. Now the next one, we've already have the vendor. We believe this can go out as an engineering report, an engineering study, because there's no construction work involved. Weston Sampson should have that scope of work for us by Thursday of this week. Means they can get a jump on the bad weather and start identifying those sources now. That data should be ready for us by mid-January. I think we can have it earlier. And then we go in and investigate the cost effectiveness of going after the I&I. The 24 I&I work, what we're planning to do is, once we get those sources identified, we prepare a scope of work to go out to bid to select a vendor to do the repair work. What we'd like to do, if the weather allows us, to have that vendor selected by April, start the work in May and June, and hopefully have that I&I available for distribution. The good news, we have the funds to cover that. We have and stay within our budget. And after that, the next step for the next bit of work would be go out to investigate the next areas, which I believe will be 9 and 13. And I will get you those maps. By following this, especially with the I&I program, it's going to allow us to free up enough capacity for reasonable, steady source of revenue from moderate connections. The I&I work, again, will never go away. It's always going to be there. One of the things I do want to point out is, and the CWMP just confirmed it, if you remember back when we met with the EPA, they told us you have a serious capacity problem. Well, the realities definitely hit us in the face. I mean, Rockland absolutely needs some form of another treatment system or disposal method if you're gonna wanna expand. The CWMP confirmed that, and our numbers support that 100% what we're seeing. Again, the discharge rate hasn't been below 2.5 in 52 months. Our current system could never handle something as large as Union Point or any really significant residential development without some kind of alternate treatment. This is also going to be part of our investigators, part of the administrative order, which I submitted the letter today to EPA. I'm jumping the gun. In the CWMP, we had to implement some of their recommendations of what we feel we could fiscally do, and I submitted that today. And one of the big items is the finding and investigating secondary sources of discharge. But once we start that process, remember, it's gonna take a lot more studies. You have to research the hydraulics, decide on an option, and then design it. And none of this is even in the dreams of our finance right now. I included the schedule for the I&I rehabilitation, taking us right up through September of next year, which I have all the confidence in the world we can make that. Moratorium. We've been working on the moratorium since the beginning of June, figuring out how can we relax it somewhat to give us the EPA wants the demonstration of continuous flow reduction in compliance. So we had to balance the moratorium with that. Also, we had to minimize the impact to the revenue with the sewer department and the cost of the resident users. But we have to allow the other thing is when we go into the phosphorus and the other upgrades, we have to have a flow that we can manage, because it's gonna require us to shut down that plant. I'm not talking days, it's gonna be shut down for hours at a time. Well, that flow is gonna be built up, and it's gotta go out. I hit enough on that 2.5. Well, a goal of the moratorium, and I'm gonna tell you right now, 2.25, you have to set a goal. At least I like setting a goal. That's what I think we should shoot for. That'll show everyone we're trying to demonstrate, prevent SSOs again from happening, and that we're really focused on achieving something. Now, the moratorium is going to be reviewed every April and September. That's the way we set it up in the first moratorium. Do I think 2.25 is reality? No, I do not. But you have to have something to shoot for. Again, that would be revisited in 6 months. One of the good things about the moratorium is we started conceptualizing it back in 21, but we have a game plan now for an I&I remediation account. So as we actually remove I&I, that goes into account for distribution for someone that's ready to connect. But it's gonna come with a little pain. I got 2 years, that's an error, it's 3 years. For the next 3 years, no connections could be allowed with more than 3,300 gallons a day. That 3,300 gallons require us to remove 36,300 gallons to satisfy the EPA order. For resident projects, this means no more than 30 total bedrooms a year for the minimum of 3 years. Again, if we hit a mother load of I&I, that relaxes. We created an active waiting list with no more than 2 applicants approved for connection and 2 more projects pending in queue at any time. Right now, there seems to be 3, but we're gonna restrict it to 2. Before they come to us for a connection, they've gotta have all other prior boards and committees' approval, so we're not going back and forth. If someone's ready, we're gonna give them the go-ahead if we can. The 2 active projects we have, 320 Concord and Manzella, we have the funds and the flow to accommodate these projects after the next round of remediation, and 1 more, I believe. That 1 more is possibly Holy Family, the next in queue. The other requests that have made for additional development projects, we have Holy Family, Park and Howard, Harmon Golf Course, which have all come to us. Just those 3 projects alone mean 530,000 gallons of I&I have got to come out. That's beyond our finances right now. we cannot make exceptions to this. We can't give away simply what we do not have. And one of the things we're gonna stick to, we all agree on the board, is no new connection is gonna be allowed with the presumption of finding the I&I later to satisfy the project's, requirements. That's how you're gonna get in trouble. Municipal projects are also gonna have to start paying for I&I. They're not charged fees for users, but flow is flow. They generate an awful lot of flow, and just to help us get that, capture the I&I, would appreciate it. The new connections, any connection with 4 bedrooms or 440 gallons a day are exempt from this. We don't want to stop the single families, but even that requires us to move 4,900 gallons of I&I to stay in compliance. They're exempt from the I&I engineering and removal fee, but they still pay a sewer maintenance fee of $20 a gallon, which realistically covers their I&I removal. So we're not hurting ourselves in any manner there. We've addressed the development fee to cover the I&I costs, and when we did this, we looked at everything it went into coming up with removing I&I. I'm talking the studies, the actual removal, investigation, everything. And what we've come up with is a rate of $6.61 a gallon with the 11-1 applied. So for example, if a large development came in, that 3,300 gallons we'll use, times 11 is 36,300 gallons a day, times $6.61, that's $239,000 of I&I development fees that can go into I&I. Plus they pay the $20 a gallon for sewer maintenance. So that would give you a total of now $305,000, $306,000, where before it would have been $33,000 to $40,000. So now we're starting to capture funds to go after them. The comprehensive waste management plan was presented last week, 2 weeks ago. It evaluates, what it did is it took in the town's master plan, the plan for development and growth, both residential, commercial, industrial, and evaluated what is needed for the sewer facility, the pump stations, the infrastructure to support that. The study was originally pushed back, it's 2006, and the only reason I put that as up there is to show what the cost is if we wait and delay. Now, again, it evaluated the study, the upgrades. Some of you that saw it, I was very pleased. There were 29 people on Zoom that watched that. That really made us feel good. It looked at all the current constraints. The biggest constraint is the EPA order. It looked at future potential needs of a secondary facility, the soil conditions, the water hydraulic table. They identified 6 areas around town that may be available for alternate disposal methods. These also need further, deeper investigation, but the cheapest and fastest option would be the Eston School, the area behind the Eston School, but that would just be flow shedding, underground flow shedding. Does flow shedding, no matter where you go, if you go here, you go Union Point, it does not really give you extra capacity. All it does is give you the option, if you run into those high periods, is to discharge into that area. The best option that Rockland has, in my opinion, and they concur, we to partner with a developer for a secondary wastewater treatment system at Union Point, or find another community to offload to. That is a hefty, hefty price tag. Conservatively, it's a $100 million price tag for a full wastewater treatment system. Even if you go flow shedding up to Union Point, it's going to be a steep ticket because we got a plumb from the sewer department up there. But it's definitely worth having conversations with them. I mentioned earlier that we had to submit recommendations, what we're going to be implementing in the next 5 years, which we did today. The full CWMP document is available on the website. The one contradiction to that is that public comments were submitted up into last Friday. Wright Pierce is compiling them, and they will be in the final document submitted to the EPA. Just as a side note, the North River Watershed Association had a few comments. I told them deliberately I didn't want to see them till the final document. This is an extremely technical subject to CWMP and this upgrade, and it's important that we're all on the same page for this. So if anyone's got asked questions, has any questions on it, please ask those questions. We'll get you the answers. But again, what I was telling you is, what this opened my eyes to was the real need for an intelligent sump pump control program without dumping the costs onto the residents. There are other towns that have that. There's no way you can eliminate sump pumps. It wouldn't be fair to people, the homeowners, and you just can't do it. But what we have to do is get it to stop dumping into the sanitary sewer lines and draining into the sanitary sewer lines. One eye opener is when they were demolishing the Jefferson School, Jefferson. What we found out is some of the roof drains were actually plumbed into the sewer. So that's a ton of I&I right there. Whether it was done deliberately after the fact, no one can tell at this point. It's going to take a lot of thought, and it's going to take getting public involvement in that, because we're going to have to get a buy-in. On a facility upgrade, we have a core team in place. We've been meeting for every 4 to 5 weeks. We have another meeting this Thursday morning. It consists of engineers from Wright Pierce, Veolia, 2 financial analysts from Wright Pierce, Sherry as well, sewer department operations and sewer commissioner. This week, our goal is to have a firm schedule on the phosphorus update. The other one is still too far down the line, but we need to have a game plan. So that's what I tasked them with. That's what they're presenting. We're going to ask people later on. We're going to be breaking out into separate teams: finance, process, and logistics. Logistics will be an interesting for everyone who wants to get into it. But just please keep in mind, when we're talking flow and flow management, we're going to have to shut that system down when we connect these things and while they're working on it. So tacking more users on is really not going to help. I mean, we need to. We're going to continue to do so, but we've got to be smart about it. For those of you who don't remember, we broke this into 4 stages to financially make this reasonable. First phase is the EPA order in a full electrical upgrade. Now, part of the order was that we'd have that phosphorus system up and running by April 1st of 2024. From the get-go, that was a no-brainer. We're not going to meet. We've been having good conversations with them. Like I said, they are very happy with us. So they told us we would file for an extension. Previous conversations were that they'd kind of be receptive to 2 years, which I think we could do. While they were telling us how good we're doing, I decided that, what the hell, I went for 4. I submitted a letter requesting 4 years. If they give us 3 years, great, but I think 2 years we can meet. And I wouldn't be surprised if they give us the 3. The second stage is the big one. That's going after the hydraulic capacity. That is holding more for discharge. We cannot discharge more, but if we can hold more and contain it, we can gradually release it in the low hours of the evening. The estimate right now is $72 million. The costs are going to rise. I have no faith in the 80 million the way things are going right now. The big unknown I'm not sure of is the PFAS and nitrogen. Currently, we do not treat for nitrogen. They're Mickey Mousing around with the parameters and the protocol for that. My gut feeling, and I'm not sure, but I think it's going to require not just an additional process, it may require an additional structure. That I'm really up in the air about, I don't know. So I'm just making you aware of that. The other thing that the CWMP looked at, some of you that read it might have had a coronary, and I know I did, but one of the things I told them is we are limited financially. I want to focus on the upgrade because that is what is really needed in Rockland. But tell me like it is with the pump stations. You might as well tell us. What they came back is if we were going to go after the pump stations to repair them and bring them up to speed, it would be $13 million. That's out of this question right now. Down the road, we'll look at grant money in that. What we have allocated right through 2038, Sherry, 2035? 2038 is $80,000 a year. That can upgrade, that can upgrade the pump stations to keep them operational. The one that hurts us the most is Spruce Street. We've prepared a scope of work to go out. That can be brought in for 80 to 90. I think it's gonna be able to be done under 80. We're gonna duplicate Butternut. And again, all of these hopes and dreams are based on the timelines, are based on the hope that no catastrophic equipment failure happens due to the increasing age. The final cost is gonna be driven by inflation and Mother Murphy. The upgrade, again, I keep repeating, will not increase our capacity. The finances, we did a rate study. We built all these things into that rate study. And what it came down to is that we're gonna see a steady 10% fee increase each of the next 5 years to pay for the upgrade. After that, it's gonna drop down to, we're hoping 7%. Right now, the rate is $7.41 per cubic foot. Rate study, again, is on the website in detail. The facility upgrade, as far as the funding, we submitted the project evaluation form to Mass DEP back in August. Rockland's a tier 2 community, eligible for 6.6. Principal forgiveness and 0% nutrient enrichment reduction rate, as long as we don't violate phosphorus, which we're having pretty good luck at throwing chemicals. It's a very costly thing. In late fall and early winter, we're gonna begin the earmark process through Bright Pierce and Veolia. We'll be preparing us to submit the community funding request to Representative Keating. We're gonna be preparing a congressionally directed spending request, and that if there is a planned meeting with Senators Warren and Markey, they've tentatively, Veolia and Bright Pierce tentatively got that planned for January, February, and we expect the earmark request to go into the House before March. Ongoing projects, the digester and the digester piping. It's been a busy year. Digester pipe boiler is complete. We failed the digester piping because of the leaks. It ended up that we had to pay for heating of that last winter at $12,000 a month. The state put a deadline on us. We went out to bid, and that bid deadline scared most of the bidders away. The bids came in at $500,000. I still think the bids are gonna come in at that, but we passed the piping test to request, so we can formally request an extension to the state deadline, which I submitted also today. That went out in the mail today. The bidders were scared away. I didn't blame them with that one. The penalties were too great. The generator, we've entered a purchase program that meets all ARPA requirements. We have a bid for the generator, just the generator, at $192,000. Just for the generator, there's 55-week lead time. Doug, we prepared the purchase order for that. You should be seeing that hopefully tomorrow. The ongoing work is we got the administrative order, and again, I want to stress they're very happy with Rockland at this point. They're seeing a lot of progress. They keep telling us we're going to be monitored, but I think they're sincere. They really want to work with us, and they like what we're doing. We have a September filing due, which is only for the CWMP to get that in. And then we have our semi-annual reports due in November and again in May. And the November submittal is basically ready for a plug and play. Any questions? Good.
Open up to the board. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like you guys have been doing a lot of work on this.
No, yeah. And again,
So-
it wouldn't have been possible without that ARPA
Yeah.
funding. That was the kickstart.
So, the Capital Planning Committee designated $65,104,353.32 for fiscal years 24 to 28 budgets. Clearly this is going to have to increase.
Well, again, the thing that that I'm nervous on is that nitrogen. If we had to do that today,
Mhm.
I mean, I think we could pull it in for 55, 56. What we did is we tried to go out, what's it gonna cost us 10 years for the rate study?
Mhm.
And I don't have a crystal ball, so if we could stick to the guns, and that's kind of why I put in to show the jump in prices with that CWMP. This is a facility, that jump would be significant. If we can keep our nose to the grindstone and keep focused on this, we can pull that off for that amount of money.
Okay. So how much grant money has been acquired so far?
Right now, we're still in the process of writing it. We had, before we could even go with that, we had to submit that PEF, which is done. That is a full project description,
Okay.
all the data, everything like that, so they're working on that.
Are they just approaching federal funds, or are they going through state programs
Well,
too?
they go on state as well, Sherry, aren't
They'll
they?
be looking at state.
Sherry will handle any questions you have for the grant.
Okay.
But the game plan is to get that done.
Okay, great. And my next question is about Union Point. Have you guys sat at the table with them and kind of
I've
talked
had
about
one meeting with
how-
Union Point.
Uh-huh.
I met with Tony Omabino, and Robert Daler
Yeah.
of Tetra Tech.
Right.
They requested a lot of information. I gave them everything they need to know. They're interested in the I&I summary report, which is really not gonna tell them anything, in the metering report, which I don't see what they're gonna get out of that either, but, we'll probably be releasing that this Thursday after our meeting and we vote on it. We wanted a couple weeks to look at that.
Yep.
I don't see any urgency going to them right now until they come up with till after the special meeting. After that, I told them I'll meet with them anytime they want.
Okay. Oh,
They have absolutely
Yeah.
everything we have, the request that I've supplied them.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that you have further discussions with them.
Pardon me?
I'm hoping you do have further
Oh, I do
discussions
too.
with
I
them
mean,
because
it's gonna be the key to what we do. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I talked to them. They were at the senior center giving a presentation, and I was talking to one of the developers, just asking him because they have like a lot of experience. I mean, 40 years of experience with building sewer and water systems and whole town. They're very.
I researched them completely.
Yeah, they're very. I think they're excellent with the things they have developed and repurposed. So, I asked them, I said, for a town of 17,500 people, 18,000, is, redeveloping a sewer plant $65 to $80 million? And their answer was, and I don't know if it's apples to apples, but their answer was for, they just developed this sewer plant in Brockton serving 175,000 people for the city, and it was 90 million for that. So, I'm looking at the capacity. Hold on. I'm looking at the capacity for our small town versus the capacity for a large city being $10 million more.
That's a good question, and be glad to have them sit down with Ray Pearsonville or anytime they wish.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really nice to figure out if.
And we're not building a facility, remember. We're just upgrading equipment.
Okay, well, it seems like, wow, I mean, do we actually have the right figures?
No. I'll bow to their experience and let them talk it over.
Yep.
I've never
Okay.
built a sewer system, so I have to go with our consultants tell us.
Yeah,
They're the
and
experts.
my next question is about, I know it was approved today at your meeting, is about the municipal projects also paying for I&I remediation fees. And in reading what you had said, does that also include work on any sewer issue in any municipal building?
Any of that money that we take in is going I&I.
Yeah, right. So, do you know where we get our budget from, the money for our budget?
I understand that.
I mean, I just want to, find out if you understand where.
I understand completely where you get it, but
Yeah.
on the flip side to that, we pay, the municipals do not pay sewer users, but we pay billing. We pay $40,000 a year for billing, I believe, to the town.
Yep.
It's quid pro quo. We need the help as well. And, you know, the town's in this as well.
Okay.
Everyone's gotta make arrangements.
Doug?
Yeah,
Hold on,
so do you
one
want
second. Yeah,
to
I-
speak further to that?
Yeah,
please?
no,
I just think
thank you.
Right.
So a couple
Yep.
things, I guess. I mean, the billing issue, like indirect costs, we follow the Department of Revenue guidelines for enterprise funds. So indirect cost allocations is how the Department of Revenue directs towns to set up enterprise funds. We don't charge other town departments fees. When the school built their school, the brand-new Phelps School, that would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars of various inspection fees, and we don't charge them because they're another town department. It's like putting money from one pocket into the other. So as Lori was saying, like, we don't have some other magic source of funding to pay for it. It's all coming from taxpayers. I would argue, personally, in addition to, I just don't think it makes sense to charge another town a fee like that. This board has the authority over all ARPA funding. You guys have already committed verbally and at a meeting up to $2.5 million, roughly.
Half our total ARPA
Right.
allotment.
That's right. Well, actually,
Yeah.
even more than that, more than half.
Yeah, it's more than half, a little more, yeah.
We've already applied through Plymouth County for about 1.7 million of that. Out of that, $500,000, which I just applied for last week, was for I&I. So I think we have more than covered all of our I&I expenses for probably the next 30 years with the 2.5 million, or even if you want to stick with the 1.7 million that we've already appropriated.
1.8.
Right. So my point is, we have already paid for all of that and then some. And I don't think it's good to go for like a tit for tat kind of thing.
Okay, I
No,
agree.
but that's what you said when you referenced the billing, and I don't think that's a good way to go, because my normal course of operation is for any town project, we would waive all of our fees. And there's a lot of fees that are involved with building projects and wastewater treatment plants. There's, building fees, there's sprinkler fees, there's electrical, there's plumbing, the list goes on, right? And that could total probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't think it's good to go in a tit for tat.
Okay,
I
well,
personally,
I'll tell you what, let us go back and revisit that. All we're trying to do is, with that moratorium, we are reaching for any kind of revenue we can.
and we understand that, and
that
that's
wasn't meant as a vindictive shot. I mean, it's just, where can we get
right.
revenue?
We understand that, and I guess my point is, this board has already covered all of our potential expenses related to this with the $2.5 million that we've committed, which could have been redirected to any other part of governmental operations,
Understood.
but we took this as a priority. So I would ask you to revisit that.
We will
I think
revisit
it's
that.
section 7.
Again, what we were looking at, we're trying to look at the future, anything we could get some funds in. Because looking at restricting to 30 bedrooms, that's gonna hurt us for 33 years. But to catch up at that flow, it's needed to be done. But the more money we bring in, the more flow we can get rid of.
And we understand that, but again, we're all part of the same organization.
All right.
And the other point I would just like to raise, because it's on the same subject, when I was looking at that section of your policy, it says all municipal projects will be subject to the same criteria as all applicants for positioning on the approved projects of the waiting list. So just hypothetically speaking, the way I'm reading this means we have to get in line like everybody else and held to that same first come, first serve. But I would argue, for example, if a fire station hypothetically gets approved by voters, that might be the most important thing that needs to be done. And that should not be held to what was voted, saying that all municipal projects held to the same criteria for positioning on the waiting list.
We'll revisit that as well. What we're looking at is flow no matter who gets it. If it goes to municipal, we don't have that to give to a source of income. That's what we're trying to get at. This thing, we have been bantering that from 2021, was really thrown to preempt the EPA. We try to use that document to build off of. So, yes, we will go back and look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another thing, it would be nice if, like surprising us with an email about it is to come talk to us.
Oh, no, but this is
beforehand,
open for discussion right now. This
Yeah.
is what we're throwing out there, because
Yeah.
this has got to go into the EPA in the November submittal. I wanted to discuss it. We voted on this today. Are we happy with what we've got?
Okay.
The board is happy with what we have, what we've drawn up. We're wide open for public comment on it
Yeah.
now.
Well,
So can I just say, Laura, like
yeah,
my
go ahead.
public comment would be, I would respectfully request that you just completely delete section 7.0 municipal connection.
We'll
That would
talk
be
about it Thursday
my
night.
recommendation. Thank you.
And-
You guys are open in a meeting right now, in an open public meeting.
Right.
You guys could discuss it now.
I
We're in an open
don't
meeting.
want to discuss it tonight, Mike. We've been beating this thing around. We'll talk
Okay,
about it,
I
and
just
I'm
figured-
more open for
Well,
it.
I just figured it's still an open public meeting now, so if you guys
Mhm.
had the opportunity, you guys
I
could
would
discuss it.
defer
You
to
got the board
discuss
here.
that back, have more conversation with my board.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking.
Okay, well, that's fine. I'm just pointing out that this is also
Nope,
an
nope,
open
I
public
understand.
meeting, and you guys have opened your meeting,
Yep,
so.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's something like, I mean, you guys have been allotted a lot of ARPA money, but there's still like $820,000 of that hasn't yet, that the county hasn't been asked for yet. So in order for other departments to make up for the charges that they'd be getting potentially in the future, I mean, we this board could always
Lori,
flip
I
that
know
around
where you're
so they
coming
get
from,
that.
all right? Like I said, we've been working on this since June. We
Mhm.
had to have a document ready.
Okay.
November is not too far away.
Mhm.
The board voted to implement this. We could still take it for public comment. People could still input on it.
Great.
I don't have to submit this to November 30th.
Okay. All right, so John, I mean, you're a finance guy,
Yeah,
what's your spin
I'll,
on it?
I guess what I would ask is, I'll back Doug, is 7 through 7.3 needs to go. That'd be my strong recommendation, that you guys rethink that.
No, it's great. I mean, well, we're working with it. You know, like I said, we had to come up with a document, and it's got to be in the 30th. We threw everything out on the table. Can the other things come out? I think the other thing that's going to come out is at 2.25, as I told you earlier.
Right, okay.
So there's things that can be done on that.
Then one question I've always kind of been kicking around in my head is how you come up with like the 6.61 gallon, when you
Oh,
come
that's
up with
easy.
the, and why can't that be higher? Like,
Oh,
have
it
you
can
ever,
be
have you
higher.
ever taken an Uber like like during surge pricing? Why can't we temporarily kick that price way the hell up?
Sure I can.
While there's way more demand for a really limited supply of open source space, we could probably double that charge, and developers would still be
went into a
lining up.
fee increase that we put in immediately because it was down to around $2.
Yeah,
So we
okay.
knew we had another round coming up of I&I, and I wanted to make sure that's how we came up with that. That fee came into, I looked at what we paid for studies, all the studies, like what we paid for all I&I repair work. I took out everything, I added up everything that went into just removing what we had, and I divided it by the amount of I&I we came up with. I had to have a ballpark to start.
Right.
And that's what I came up to. So we went
Okay.
from $2 up to $6 right now. Those fees are visited every quarter. I can go up in them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for money, I would suggest
Oh,
maybe looking
absolutely.
at that area rather than hitting the town and the taxpayers for that money.
Absolutely, taxpayers
So-
aren't paying that, it's any development's
So,
not.
but this is.
Right, well, that's my point is,
Mhm.
if
Right,
you're looking
yeah.
for, if you're looking for a place to kind of draw in some extra money for I&I think kicking that fee up, even just temporarily,
Oh,
like I
yeah.
say, it's.
Well, just look at
supply
the,
and
I had
demand,
understand it, look at how it went up from where it was to now. From 30,000 to two, almost $300,000.
Yeah, and I bet they would pay more than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so. yeah.
Well, you have
That'd
to have
be
a
my
starting point.
recommendation, so.
So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think it's something that we brought up in the past, where we sit back, we enter into host community agreements, and if a developer wants to come into the town, you can set the limit. You know, so whatever it is, and if they really want their project to take off, then I think they'll pay whatever amount you set it as.
I think they will as well.
Yeah.
So, if I may, I'd like to have a little bit more feedback on the mandatory, from your perspective, moratorium, because is that not contradicting what we were just saying? So if a prospective developer came in and they were willing to, pay what,
Replace what they put in.
you came up with, that would be beneficial for the town, and then all of a sudden we've already indicated in this document that you're saying a mandatory moratorium for 2 years. So may I hear a little bit more about
The
that? And
reason
then-
we're doing that is to get the flow under control right now. Our flow is supposed to be at 2.5. We haven't been at 2.5 in 50 months. So what they want to see, the EPA, is continual flow reduction. So we put this on right now, that you have to have some criteria for them to meet to do that. And you cannot, if you take the money from a developer right now to add flow, he's gonna wanna add it right then and there. Granted, you have your money, but what if you can't find that flow?
And then just an additional question, thank you. In terms of the EPA feedback, I understand you mentioned a number of times that, that they've mentioned that they are very much monitoring activity and whatnot. Do you have like their specific feedback or, to provide for us?
I've had the
with
specific
that?
feedback.
Because I'd be interested to hear their feedback on the actual moratorium and
The moratorium they have not seen. They have seen the
because
original
I'm
moratorium.
concerned about the moratorium and the length of time that you're indicating is mandatory because
haven't
on the
seen that
big,
yet.
I'm just trying to, look at it from a very broad, big picture perspective. So I'm just curious if we're saying that, that's an important, and I know that you've been working very closely with them. I'd like to hear, some perspective on that timing.
So the
They
EPA,
haven't-
the
they
EPA
haven't
is,
seen this
hold on,
yet.
hold on, the
That was-
EPA, hold on,
Oh, sorry.
the EPA is not enforcing this moratorium.
Right.
This is the sewer commissioners.
This is the sewer
So the
Right.
EPA, so Chuck was quick to point out from that meeting where
Mhm.
she said that we don't have an I&I problem, we have a capacity problem. And we had acknowledged that. I was talking to her down my end of the table. I said, I was trying to push to have our permit raised, our capacity raised.
Yep.
And she was saying no, but I was asking about if a developer came in, as long as we were able to remove some of the I&I to make up the capacity, would we continue to be able to, do developments as needed? And she said, absolutely. The moratorium is being enforced by the commissioners. It's not part of the EPA order. But
Right.
because they've been over for as long as they have been, I think it's been one of those things where, it's in good faith, you show some progress, and then as the progress remains consistent, then, to Chuck's point, I guess you start opening it up a
And
little
that's
bit.
why that's in that moratorium. It can be reviewed and modified every April and September.
Right, but then on a big picture spectrum, I'm just curious, the stringent use of the word moratorium could also prevent any sort of developers that would be interested in coming in,
Oh, they're
that
still
could
coming.
potentially be helpful to coming in. So I'm just curious about the use of that and the time frame that you're using too. I would love to revisit
The
that.
reason I'm using that time frame is that, especially for now, April, up until now until April is gonna be the heaviest flow months. For snow melt, rain, what have you. There's no way we're gonna be in compliance with that permit between now and then. That's fact of life. So all I'm trying to do is demonstrate to them that we're holding our ground, we're trying. If it don't work, we go back in April and we change it. They're not gonna stop us from changing it. All I'm trying to do is show them that we mean business, that we're trying. If we're strangling ourselves revenue-wise, it can be modified. It's in there that it can be modified every April and September. Technically, we can modify that every month if we wanted to. But I just wanted to give them, show them that we're controlling it, we're watching it, we're doing what we can.
Thanks for the clarification.
No, I just didn't want to go back every month and hit them with a change, because they want to know every time we change it.
So wasn't the 3-year period for the moratorium?
3-year period I just put down, we put
Well-
down for a size constraint to give us something to work with. Like I said, right now, there is nothing we can do. We're at the mercy of the weather.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, whether we put down 3 years or 10 years, it's not gonna hurt us. We can change it in April.
That wasn't my
3 years,
question.
I'm trying to get the flow down.
I understand, but my point was, that was in the CWMP study. Or those discussions were going on at that time.
CWMP 3 years.
Well, the engineers were saying probably 3 years, maybe 4.
Say that again?
The engineers were saying probably 3 years, maybe 4, as far
Well, they were
as
probably,
being
that's
able
what
to
they,
develop.
to get the flow down, that's what they were recommending.
Right, so, Tiffany was asking why
No, that's a
that period
that's
was.
strictly a recommendation.
Well, I was just bringing up the point that.
No, it's strictly a
the engineers
recommendation.
had said that.
Like I said, this could be changed every April and September.
Okay.
Change it between now and April would be foolhardy because it's just, the flows are gonna be too high.
Well, my hope that it is changed as soon as possible. My hope is that it's changed as
I
soon
do
as
too.
possible.
We need the money.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to demonstrate to them progress. I'm trying to demonstrate to them that we mean business. Before they weren't getting that from us.
Indeed.
That's why we're in the hole we are now.
Mhm.
They're certainly not gonna allow us to discharge more.
Anybody else?
Okay. I think I'm done.
Doug, any closing comments?
And we revisit that moratorium on the municipal park.
You good? Yeah. All right, thank you, Chuck, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Make a motion to close the meeting. All in favor?
Other new business not reasonably anticipated, Doug.
I have none.
Old business, billboard appeal update.
So there was a appeal hearing at the state last week. I know that Mike participated or observed it virtually, and Lori observed it in person. So I should defer to you two to talk about what happened, because you heard it directly. I only heard about it secondhand. But when you're done summarizing it, I do have a recommendation and a vote I'd like to request related to that. So, and if you don't want to talk, I'm happy to wing it.
Yeah, I mean, I took a whole bunch of notes, but to summarize it, there's a point C is the thing in question. Point C is where the road actually widens off of a highway to where a person would see an electronic billboard and be distracted by it and not be paying attention to the road. And it has been precedent for years and years with many engineering companies through a federal-state agreement, those were the measures they went by, that it's where the asphalt widens is where that C point is. And, the attorneys for RN Realty are trying to get us the billboard on Route 3, not to mess with any residential areas, but will get us about $60,000 a year for 30 years in rent. And Mike it's been, a pariah for him, and I understand why after going to this meeting. It was, the application was denied because the point C, according to this guy that makes all the decisions, Mr. Romano, believes it's where the paint lines start to widen rather than where the road starts to widen. So if it's where the asphalt starts to widen, it is within a 500-foot acceptable measure of where a billboard can be placed. And the lawyers for RN Realty came up with like 11 or 12 examples that are similar and maybe a little different to our situation, but they were all approved in the past, and we were denied. So the MassDOT's, they said, we are just going by a different measure now, and what happened in the past is in the past, and you guys, are just screwed for the future. So that's what I get out of it.
Yeah, I think the thing that I gathered out of it was a lot of technical back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what it comes down to is the measurements that they were concerned about were actually a portion of the highway that would not be even looking at the billboard, because the billboard is facing the north side, but on the south is in the south side of the highway. So people where that point C would be,
yes,
they would be seeing the back of the billboard, and they would not be distracted by it because the only side that faces is facing north. So it's kind of a moot point, but I think we all are well aware of what this comes down to. It comes down to the fact that MassDOT and the state has property on the other side of the highway that's in a direct residential neighborhood, and they have a preferred site where they would get half of the revenue and we would get the other half of the revenue. So they wanted to be the people that are in charge of deciding where this goes so that they can, get the funding from this billboard and not just us. The site that we voted for, I think, is perfect. It's like 6 inches away from the town of Norwell. It's on Acord Park Drive. It's not one residential abutter in the town of Rockland. It affects nobody in Rockland. It would only bring revenue to the town of Rockland. And the state is reaching into our pockets this time once again. And trying to take away this project. So, I thought it was important that, I still think it's important. I think that we do everything we can to support this project and fight against MassDOT, which is amazing that the people that make the decision to deny it are also the people that sit there in the appeal and are the judges of it, which tells me it's probably going to go to a next level. So, which I think is where you're going to make your recommendation for us.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So what I was going to recommend is, and because there's tight timing coming up before they make their decision, so what I would request is that you take a vote to authorize me to draft a letter, and I'm going to consult with others to get the right technical information, and then to authorize Mike to sign it as chairman on behalf of the board, so we can submit that to the Division of Administrative Law Appeals before their deadline next week, just to touch on some of the specific technical areas, like some of the things, Laura, you were talking about. And I think that a letter from the board at this point could help, could carry some weight, and it'll be too late if we wait for your next meeting to review a letter. So I'd appreciate a vote for that. I can draft something quickly, get you to sign it, and then hopefully that'll help.
What's the will of the board? You guys comfortable with that?
Yeah, definitely.
So moved.
For sure, yeah. Can we also get Senator Keenan and Dave
Yeah, I mean, they have sent letters in the past, so I don't know. I don't know if I could get another one on short notice.
Maybe just resubmit them, make sure that they're in that pile for the Administrative Appeals Judge. All right, so I have a motion from John. I have a second. I think I have like 2 seconds.
Yes.
A motion and 3. It sounds unanimous. All those in favor? It's unanimous. I think it's one of those things that, this has been 7 years now. Just about 7 years that we've been going through this process. It was one of the very first things when I first became a selectman, where I think they were just giving me a project to keep me busy, and we looked into it. We kept looking into it, and we're like, this is a great revenue generator potentially for the town.
1,800,000 over 30
Yes.
years, and it's a renewable contract
Yes.
after that.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Good. I'm glad you had the numbers. Perfect. Okay. Next on the agenda.
Can I just say one last thing on that?
Absolutely.
So you're right about how, it's the State Department of Transportation that denied it, and then they select people that preside over this administrative law. There could be another step, like you said, the next level. I think the next level would be in court, in the judicial system. That could delay things a long time. So hopefully it won't come to that. But I just wanted the public to know what you were alluding to, which is the court system after that.
Well, the lawyers for RN Realty actually did make Mr. Romano, who did make the decision, look incompetent, and that he didn't know what he was talking about. So.
Okay. Next on the agenda, 11/7/2023 special town meeting warrant.
Thanks, Mike. And one piece of paper in your packet was put in the wrong tab. So, and I think in your binders, right after the letter I is what's labeled as the Union Point zoning revised timeline.
Yeah.
I just want to refer to that for a minute. So you have the green check marks next to all the milestones through the meeting. So tonight is the 19th. So tonight we should close the warrant. That just sticks with our timing after I give you the update. Our process. So I now have 10 articles for the special town meeting. And again, this is not in the order that they would be on the warrant. The 10 articles are Union Point zoning, and that'll actually technically be 3 separate articles, I believe. But Union Point zoning is one. The Holy Family Senior Affordable Housing Project, Community Preservation Act is number 2. Fire Station Feasibility Study, an update to that study is number 3. Fire Department Training Grant Match. Additional money for the police department for their HVAC and flat roof replacement due to inflation. Number 6 is a correction to the library director's salary due to a typo in the budget. A rewrite of the sewer bylaw. The Attorney General's office has not approved what we recently voted. Number 8 is the school department requested budget increase that we just spoke about tonight. And again, that's $300,000 that would come from free cash. They've not yet gone to the finance committee. I believe that meeting's gonna happen a week from tomorrow, which would be the 27th. Number 9 is adopting Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A. That again would allow us, if deadlines occur on a Saturday, to be able to have them due on the following Monday, so we wouldn't incur overtime for things like the clerk's office. And then the last one, which is new since your last meeting, I think there's a couple of unpaid bills from a prior fiscal year that have just been identified, so paying at least one unpaid bill from the prior fiscal year. I've been checking with department heads regularly. I think that's it. So unless you have any questions, I would vote that we close the warrant based on those items.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the warrant.
Motion to close the warrant.
I have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Selectperson Childs?
Yes.
Selectperson Elwood?
Yes.
Vice Chair Needham?
Yes.
And myself, unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Next on the agenda, other old business not reasonably anticipated?
I have none.
None? Okay, town administrators report and correspondence, Doug?
Great. Just a couple of things. We just talked about the warrant, so I won't mention that again. We did just publish our most recent bi-monthly newsletter. It's available on the town website, all the archives. And again, I'd encourage anybody from the public that's interested in finding out the latest information, sign up to the newsletter. There's QR codes out and around town. There's links on the town website right on the homepage. This most recent issue that we just put out was mainly dedicated toward water quality issues, the Abington-Rockland Joint Water Works, trying to answer some of the frequently asked questions. Is my water safe? What are you doing to clean the water? What's been happening? You know, why does my color have a funny odor sometimes? Or why does it look, why does it look different? All those kinds of things. So there's plainly written in clear language some answers to some of those most frequently asked questions. So again, if anybody hasn't signed up for our newsletter that's interested in topics in town, please go to the website, sign up for it, and there's also a link there where you can look at all the previous newsletters as well. As Chuck just mentioned earlier, I've been working very closely with the sewer department, with the town accountant as well, submitting applications for our ARPA funding. And as I referred to a few minutes ago, we've submitted nearly 1.4 million in requested funding that you've committed thus far. I do, and I'm going to communicate this to the sewer department tomorrow. I do want to wait and see what the outcome is of their relook at their moratorium to see that municipal section is taken out before I submit any.
Yeah, I wouldn't submit it.
Application.
I don't know if everybody else agrees, but I would hold off on that because if we have a bill to pay now, then we're going to need some money to pay it.
Right, right. So I'll communicate that to them tomorrow. Next, I've been working with our HR director, Stacy Callahan. We just submitted a grant application, a community compact best practices grant from the state to help us with our wage and classification study. So as you recall, we did appropriate some funds at town meeting. We were trying to be kind of prudent with that request and just have it be very targeted. But there is the grant opportunity, so we asked for an additional $40,000, which would enable us to really do everything, or maybe even possibly reduce the amount that we need to fund from taxpayers. So I feel pretty confident we'll be in good shape for that, but I will let you know for sure. Next, the surplus vehicle auction that I mentioned before, that is up and running. That is live. It's an online auction. There, I put information out on social media. It's also right on the homepage of the website. Anybody that's interested, go to the website link. You can see the vehicles, photos, descriptions. You can submit your bids online. Everything's done electronically. If anyone wants to physically see the equipment, see the vehicles, you can go down to the recycling center when they're open, and all that information is included on the website. But people can look at it in person, but all the bids and award will all be done electronically online. Next, as I indicated at our prior meeting, I did give testimony at the Cannabis Control Commission's public hearing on host community agreements. I can't really say how much it will be truly, considered. I hope they give it serious consideration. I tried to be as direct but also respectful as I could. That entity, that commission, is in turmoil. I know you've probably all seen in the news. I think it was their chair, has been suspended or asked to step down. There's a lot of issues there. So I will hope that they do the right thing. I won't beat a dead horse there, but I did do my best. I had very short amount of time that I only had, I think, up to 3 minutes. So I really got it into 2 minutes and 50 seconds, I think. So I tried to hit all the points. So hopefully that was effective. And then lastly, for the first time in my time here, I'm going to be going to the ICMA conference. That's the International City Manager Association Conference. That's the last weekend of the month. It's the 29th, and I'm planning right now on coming back on the 4th, which means that would affect our meeting on that first Tuesday in October. So we can talk about that offline more later. As of right now, that agenda is very light. The only thing on the agenda is the Veteran Services Officer discussing the Tri-Town Parade. So we can talk about whether you want me to remote in or not. So we can discuss that later as the agenda items come in. And that's all I have.
We might be all right without you. We'll figure it out. You can wing it. That'd be a first. Without a town administrator.
I'm getting nervous.
There'll be nothing. There'll be nothing on that agenda.
Party.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, Selectmen's comments. Thank you, Doug. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen. The opinions and comments of only the individual members. Selectperson Elward.
All right, I guess keep the tradition going. Ms. Joyce, I know you couldn't come tonight. Hopefully you'll come again for the Rent Control Board. We still need 3 members. At least they have a quorum now, so that's good. And that's it.
Thank you, John. I wonder if she listed on her thing that she was the clerk for the Conservation and Planning Board in Holbrook. This is typically Holbrook's long night, so I wonder if maybe
we'll follow up.
Yeah,
for sure.
I wonder if that's who she was. Thank you, John.
Maybe able to bump in
Yep.
remotely.
Selectperson Childs.
Yeah, I don't have much. I just wanted to remind people not to dump on the rail trail. We also found a dumping situation in the town forest, which was horrible. It was like a air conditioner and a refrigerator, and Chief Scioli took care of it right away. But that costs us money. As taxpayers every time somebody dumps illegally. So, I just wanted to remind you, if you see it happening, say something. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Lori. Vice Chair Needham.
2 things. First of all, I would like to thank our town administrator for all of your hard work the last couple of months where we haven't had the assistant town administrator. I know that it's been exceptional, and I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm very much looking forward to meeting and working with our new town planner and our new assistant town administrator. So 10/10, that's going to be very exciting. And then on a personal note, I would love to wish my daughter Cadence a happy 8th birthday tonight. Very exciting in our house today and moving forward, because 8 is great. But that's it for tonight.
Thank you, Tiffany. I haven't got much. I just want to one more time acknowledge the police department. We had Police Appreciation Day last Saturday. It was well attended by the board. Obviously, Lori, you were in Washington, D.C. at the time, fighting the fight down there, I'm sure. But it was very well attended by this board, as well as Senator Keenan and Representative DeCoste. Had some really good conversations and some great opportunities to bring the police officers into the schools and work with students within the school system coming up. But it's really become a great department. It's really a stalwart of our community, and a department that I know all of us up here are very proud of for the hard work that they do and the way in which they conduct themselves on our streets daily. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You guys want to stay? What was the hold up on that? I got motion in 2 seconds.
It was my turn.
Yeah.
I forgot.
It wasn't your turn.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Select Person Childs.
Yes.
Select Person Howard.
Absolutely.
Vice Chair Needham.
Yes.
And myself, unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.